Are you willing to completely transform the way that you think about work?
Welcome to Badass Softie, a podcast for leaders who are unapologetically ambitious and want to lead with heart because you're allowed to chase big goals without losing what makes you human. I'm your host, Dr. JJ Peterson, and I am so excited about today's conversation. You know, for years in my life, I am still driven, but I've always been kind of the at least 9 to 5 kind of work schedule type of person. And when I say at least, what I mean by that is a lot of times that was 8 to 6 or working on weekends or working on in the evenings. And often I thought that if you just put in more hours, you would be more productive and probably, if I'm honest, more importantly, you would look more productive and become more important to your boss and to your company. So I always wanted to be there, like before my boss showed up, and I wanted to be there after my boss left. That was the way that I thought that I could be more productive and get ahead in the world. And to be honest, there were seasons that actually served me really well, and I was able to accomplish a ton of things. But as I got a family and I got a little bit older, I began to realize that maybe it's not always about just working more hours. And one of the people who helped me make some pretty big shifts in my own life in this space is my friend, Hannah Collins-Lee. And I wanted her to come on Badass Softie and talk about some of the work that she is doing in helping companies transition from a 5-day work week to a 4-day work week, while also maintaining a high level of productivity and in fact becoming more profitable. And if you've ever heard people talk about a 4-day work week and gone, there's no way I could do that or my company could ever do that. Trust me, I've been there. But Hannah, in today's conversation, is really going to offer a new paradigm shift for all of us to begin thinking differently about the way that we approach our work. And so that's why I'm so excited about this conversation, because I know it offered a ton of even new paradigm shifts for me, and I know it's going to offer some paradigm shifts for you. So here is my conversation with Hannah Collins-Lee. Hannah, hi, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
I think this whole idea of changing from or examining even the idea of changing from a 5-day work week, which is where we've been for decades, centuries, moving to the idea of a 4-day work week and the benefit that is on people's mental health and physical health, but also benefit for the company. Those two things can be held together, which is kind of the whole idea of Badass Softie. It's like, how do you be driven, but do it with a heart? And this is a big piece of that. So tell me kind of when you first started thinking, because you had a traditional agency, and I'm assuming at that point you were doing 5-day work weeks. What kind of started that shift in you to look at what it could look like for you and your team to go to 4 days?
Yeah, and having a 4-day work week, I'm so glad you're kind of putting that in the Badass Softie category, because it really does feel like that. Like on the outside, you look at a 4-day work week and you're like, oh, they're not as productive. It's probably affecting revenue. But on the inside, it's like, no, this is actually our superpower, and makes us better than ever. Our 4-day work week journey. So we started the company in 2016. So we're coming up on 9 years, which is crazy.
Congrats.
Thanks. Time flies when you're having fun. No.
Yes, everybody would say it like that. I think anybody who owns a business would say it like that too. When you're having
fun, ... question mark? No, it honestly has been so fun. And in 2018, I have to give a ton of credit to the founders of Basecamp, 27 Signals. They wrote a book called It Doesn't Have to Be Crazy at Work. In the book, they talk about like growing up, you just have the tradition of seasonality, right? Like you go to school and then you get summer break. And then when you enter the workforce, you don't really get any breaks. Like maybe if you're lucky, your company will give you some not very generous PTO and you get a few days off for the holidays. And there's no seasonality to work. There's no rhythms. And so they talked about introducing like half-day Fridays during the summer to really maximize summer, right? There's more daylight. And then they also program the seasonality of their work accordingly. So during the winter, they're working more. During the summer, they have a lighter workload. And we were like, ooh, we really want some seasonality to our work. So we started thinking about half days on Fridays. And I will say, just selfishly, as a business owner, it was a game changer because I found myself, I would finish working on a Friday and then I don't come down, quote unquote, off of work until like half a day later. Like I'm still thinking, I'm still processing. And then on Sunday afternoon, I start getting, what formerly was the artist known as the Sunday Scaries. And so I'm like starting to ramp up again, thinking about work. And so I really found that I was maybe, if I was lucky, getting Saturday afternoon and Sunday morning.
Yes.
Totally
Yes.
disconnected, not thinking about work. So then when we started doing the half day summer Fridays, one, so much better for my mental health, also seeing how our employees were really enjoying and thriving. And even if you didn't get that full half day off on a Friday, just like the gift of like a little bit extra time felt monumental. And then in 2019, we were like, this is pretty par for the course for us. We were like, what if we like push the boundaries a little bit more? And so we were like, let's do full summer Friday off. And also realized everyone was still getting their work done. Clients were still happy. Everyone was still productive. Can't imagine going back at this point.
So beyond even just like the mental health side of things, what other benefits did you start seeing in your company because of the shift?
Yeah, I mean, it just forced us to prioritize, right? Like you have less time, quote unquote, to get things done. But I think so many companies, there's just a lot of waste. And it's not even just in companies, right? I think there's a lot of waste in like all of our lives. But really and truly, like the number of meetings, especially, right? When you're in a meeting, you can't be getting work done. And so, meetings can bloat people's time and energy. Like input does not have to equal output. I don't want you just sitting there to sit there to look quote unquote productive. Come in, get your stuff done, and then get out. And so to kind of force that with a 40 work week model was a game changer for us, right? Like we had to get so strategic on what we say yes to, right? So we can only take on work that is in our sweet spot, that fits for us, that's going to be profitable, that is an ideal client fit for us. We also only say yes to things internally, right, that we can actually prioritize and have the bandwidth for. We ask ourselves, does this really need to be a meeting? Most of the time it doesn't, right? And so like the ability to, I guarantee you, if you looked at your work week schedule, just in terms of meetings and email communications alone, you could trim off 10 to 15% of your time. Then you infuse AI into the process. And I mean, that in and of itself has just made our team so much more productive. We focus on the things that are important. We say no to the things that aren't. We reduce distractions. We reduce meeting times. We incorporate AI. We automate and delegate whenever possible. And getting 20% of your time back without sacrificing top line revenue and without sacrificing profitability and productivity is absolutely possible.
So then what do you say, or what would you say to somebody who's like, oh my gosh, well, we became more efficient in 4 days. If we added that fifth day back, now we could actually add 20% more profit and 20% more productivity. Because like, what would you say to people who would say that?
Yeah, so I'm currently living abroad. Very American mindset would be the first thing I would say. But okay, so the thing to think about is obviously diminishing returns, right? Like, and studies have shown that we start to lose efficiency and efficacy after a certain point, right? And so even people who are like, oh, I'm going to do a 4-day work week with 10-hour days, right? That also is not as effective. We as human beings were not designed to kind of have this, there's like this tipping point and this threshold in terms of our capacity for best possible output and best possible product. So when you add that fifth day back in, it's not a guarantee for, that 20% success. People have shown that you will start to lose on productivity when you add that fifth day back in. It's not a one-to-one correlation. And in fact, things like rest, rejuvenation, decrease in stress, increase in quality of sleep, increase in exercise. All of these are tied to a 4-day work week that also generate better output for work productivity. So ending that fifth day back in is not a guarantee for success. And we're seeing that with companies who are making the shift to a 4-day work week. And of course, I think a lot of people are thinking about, I want a 4-day work week from an employee perspective, but like I'm here to advocate that from an employer perspective. Reduced number of sick days, like there's so many benefits there. Reduced number of childcare days, right? Now with the infusion of AI, as employers, we cannot ask our employees to be more productive and save time with AI and not have some type of equitable exchange with them, right? If I'm asking for you to be more effective and more productive with AI, I need to reward you and give you that time back, right? Like, what is the point of using more AI or being more efficient and productive if there's not some type of exchange between employer and employee and kind of a reward for, hey, the more efficient and effective you are, the more time savings you get.
And, just kind of speaking about AI, like obviously you do a lot in the marketing and content space. So there's some really, obviously anybody in those space can see the quick advantages of AI to kind of help decrease the amount of hours that it takes you to actually do the same amount of work. Where else have you seen people use AI to become more effective so that they can get that 20% back?
Yeah, I think AI is so good at spotting trends and gaps. So really, I mean, on our team, we want to take a human-centric approach to AI. So we have our team saying, hey, we want you as a human to do the things that you are best at. That's strategy, that's relationship building. Those things, AI is not in a place, and I don't think it ever will be in a place to really be as efficient and effective as a human is in those spaces. So I want to lift the administrative burden off of you, right? The summarizing an email, the communication aspect internally to kind of quick messages, right? Organization of your thoughts, like as you're kind of brain dumping, things like that. Like really good at spotting trends, helping you kind of also with feedback, right? So you put something in and you can get feedback and kind of spot gaps and weaknesses in your own thought process or your own content.
That's one of the things I always say about AI in what you're talking about here is AI does not have a point of view. It just has the point of view you give it. So when you're talking about strategy and relationship, it can't do that without you, and it's not going to ever do it as well as you because it only has the point of view that you can give it. So as we kind of wrap this up a little bit here, you have helped some teams kind of begin this process of not even begin, make the shift of moving from 5 days to 4 days. When you go in and work with a company, what are some of the things, and that's for our listeners, what are the things that you help them think about in order to begin this? Is this a good fit? What are some things that you can start looking at to begin to open up your brains to this idea of moving to this? So kind of in terms of how does it look like when you work with them and kind of turning that into tips for our listeners of what are some things, if this is something they're thinking about, what do they need to be focusing on?
Yeah, I think some of the first things that I'm looking for when I'm working with a company that's interested in the 4-day work week is, what is the motivation? Because there has to be kind of this paradigm shift as an organization to say, you know what, we are thinking about productivity and employee health and wellness and benefits as something that does ultimately contribute to the company's success, right? So that's key there, right? Like if a company is like, oh, for us, culture is that we have a keg and a ping pong table, those are fun, right? But culture and employee wellness and really thinking about the longevity of an organization are so much deeper than that. So really understanding kind of what is the motivating factor. And as you said, there's a lot of different things that the 4-day work week benefits. Like, do you have a retention problem? Do you have a attracting top talent problem? Like, these are some of the things that ultimately a 4-day work week can help with. But if you're looking for it to be this kind of one size fits all solution, that that's where the 4-day work week, I think people are immediately like, if it doesn't solve this one specific problem right away, then, the 4-day work week is not some silver bullet, right? Nothing out there is. So, because if you implement a 4-day work week, but you don't have the proper processes and prioritization in place, you're like, oh, everybody's so stressed. Everybody's more stressed out, right? Because they have to get actually 5 days of work done in 4 days. And so we've seen that sometimes why 4-day work weeks are not successful. So it really requires, like, when I'm working with a company, I'm like, are you willing to completely transform the way that you think about work? And like, I know that sounds a little dramatic, but we've been on the 5-day work week is only 100 years old. It started in around the 1920s, which was a dramatic paradigm shift. Henry Ford brought in the 5-day work week, post-industrialization. Hi, we're in a post-internet world. It's a really good time to be thinking about a 4-day work week, but we have to undo 100+ years of thinking about work. We're sitting in the chair, going to the factory, right? That equals output. And we're just not in that type of environment anymore. So are people willing to kind of strip down their preconceived notions about productivity, about employee trust and efficiency? And so that's really one of the first things is like, do you have some of these other key markers in some of your kind of, culture as an organization, or in, your employee benefits packages that kind of signal some of these, hey, we're open to experimenting, trying new things. And if so, then we kind of start going through the process of really like envisioning what a 4-day work week can look like, painting that picture. Like, what does it look like? What does it feel like? Like, how do you feel going into work on a Monday? How do you feel clocking out on a Thursday? All right, some of these things. So really kind of like, there's a lot of actually like some ego work that goes into it too, right? We love saying we're so busy. What happens if you don't have that 5th day of work to kind of fill your time? Are you still okay? Right? It kind of ends up being like a little bit more of like some work therapy before we even move into like the actual execution plan implementation.
I think that that's so important of the mindset shift just up front, right? Like that's so the key pieces is just like, why are you even doing this? Is it just to create a fun place to work, or is it actually because you want to shift the way you do work? Because it will require that, right? Like the meetings and the emails and the Slack messages and all the things that you have established right now to get everything done, you actually have to shift the way that you do work. And then you also have to shift your mentality, because it is like, there are times even now where on weekends, if I'm not doing something to move my business forward, I feel guilty. I feel, like sometimes even shame wrapped up in this idea that I'm not being productive enough because I had 2 extra hours that I could have been doing something and I didn't do it. And I've had to do a lot of that work myself, especially kind of launching some new things of my own where I'm not working for somebody else anymore. I have to decide who I want to be and what I want my life to look like. One of the things that I've implemented just for my own family is the kids get home at 3:00. I don't book meetings after 3:00. I'll still do some work, but I'm not going to be on a computer and tell them to be quiet because I work from home. I'm not going to tell them to be quiet while I'm at home, and that frees that up. And if I don't have work I have to do, I actually spend time with my children before dinner, which is a whole new thing.
Oh, I
So,
love that.
but that's something I had to, in an ego way, get over a little bit of like, especially and you also said something at the very beginning that I think is really important for people to hear. There will be seasons, especially like when you're launching new things and you're trying to get to market fast and you're doing those things. There are seasons where this is not a 50 hours working for a week is bad.
Exactly.
And 30 hours is good. This is not a good or bad. There will be seasons where I think you might be more busy and you're putting in some extra hours, and I have to go to a conference on a weekend. That happens in life. But when we can actually establish some of these rhythms and routines in a way that helps us be, and this is the key to this is why you're on the Badass Softie, is to be productive, to actually increase profit and increase creativity and teamwork and collaboration, all those things, while also holding the human at the center of it all and giving people space to flourish both in work and outside. That's incredibly powerful. And I think there are some tools out there. There's some books out there you've already mentioned of that people can look into. Would you mind saying what was the name of that book again that kind of shifted things for you?
Yeah, I would say for people who want to go on a 40 work week journey, it doesn't have to be crazy at work, is one book. And then Shorter and Rest are two other great books that are very specifically geared towards a 4-day work week. So those are some great resources.
Love it. And if people wanted to reach out to you to like talk a little bit more about this, or maybe even hire you to come in and kind of do workshops and work with their team, where can they reach out to you at?
Yeah, so I'm on LinkedIn quite often. You can find me Hannah Collins Lee on LinkedIn, or you can always pop over to thesecondmile.com and get in touch with me there. And yeah, I love talking about this stuff. I love helping companies rethink and implement their 4-day work week. So yeah, it really, like, it's so exciting to see you also kind of implementing some of these things too, because like, JJ, who knows how long we have on this planet, right? And like, to be able to give people the gift of time is just like the biggest honor, truly. Like, to be able to like see our employees take their kids to the park on a Friday, or hear about you spending more time with your kids, or people have hobbies outside of work, right? Like, wow, it's just, we don't know how long we get to do the things we love with the people we love. And so to be able to have the time and space to prioritize those things, it's just like such a fun ride. And I'm so glad that you're getting to do it too.
Thank you. I mean, and really, like you, it was something I was thinking about. And then as I've gotten to know you and followed you more, and you've challenged me even in this area, it's, you know, you say it's a gift to give. Well, it's a gift to get. And you have been a great gift to me in this as well. So thank you for being here. Thank you for being on the Badass Softie podcast. And thank you for sharing this. And everybody out there, if this is something you're thinking about, get those books. Reach out to Hannah. She can help you walk through this. So Hannah, go enjoy the rest of your time off. I know, you know, she's in Germany right now. So she's doing a late day there by and coming and sharing with us. So thanks so much for being here, and we'll talk soon. Okay.
Thanks, JJ.
Oh, I love that conversation, and I adore Hannah. So Hannah, thank you so much for coming on and sharing with us today. You know, what I'm really taking away from this conversation, as I heard her talk about it again, is that there are moments in my life where I find myself with a few extra hours where I don't have to be working. I might have some afternoon where, you know, I mentioned I take some afternoons off with my kids. And even with that, I still sometimes feel very guilty about it and feel like I need to become more productive. So many of us have been driving so hard for so long that part of the work that we need to do to actually be more productive and be more functional and be more driven is to actually lean into the rest. Maybe this week, think about these words. The rest is the work. That's what I'm taking away from today's conversation, and that's what I want to call out for you as well. So let me leave you with this. May you find a way to prioritize and focus on what's most important in your work. And may you find the tools to be more efficient. And may all of this allow you the space and rest to make your health and well-being a priority. Because we believe you can be both kind and ambitious, fun and driven, powerful and deeply human. Your leadership can inspire, your success can have soul, and your ambition can make space for everyone. That's why you're a Badass Softie. We'll see you next week. Thanks for listening. Follow and subscribe so you don't miss an episode. BadassSoftie.com is crafted by Fruitful Design and Strategy.